Okay, to start, I cut a piece from a 12 by 12 piece of extruded acrylic from Clear Scraps, and I just cut a piece that was wide enough that I could use a circle template and cut some circles out. And I'll show you what we did here. I took my little circle template here, and I just used a pencil. Now, I did leave the film on originally because I don't want the outline of my pencil to show up once I have cut it, and I don't want to waste any of this acrylic, so I'm going to kind of go all the way to the edge there. And what I did is, let me grab my pencil here. I just took a pencil and mark it real good on the film that's on there, and I want one small circle. I want the next size, and then I want the bigger size, just like that. And then what I did, I just drew, doodled some leaf shapes here. Just kind of roughly do that. Doesn't really matter what size you have, just doodle some shapes there. Okay, and then I cut them out, and let me speed this up while we just cut them out. Leave the film on them for right now, just until we get it all cut out. Next, we're going to grab the 3 circles, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to spritz them with a little bit of Shimmerz Vibes in Pop Art Pink, and I'm going to cover them all. Now, it does take a little bit longer for this kind of paint to dry on the acrylic. Do it just like that. So I am going to, from a distance, use my heat gun, kind of blow it around just a little bit. Alright, now these 3 pieces are dry, and I did use my heat gun. Normally I would recommend using a hair dryer on a low setting so that you don't warp the acrylic that you're working with. However, we're going to actually warp the acrylic in order to make the little flower that we're going to do. So I wanted it, it didn't really matter, I wanted the paint to go dry a little bit faster, and I just I know the limits of my heat gun. If you're not sure how fast it will start warming up your acrylic, I suggest you use the hair dryer, or just let the, if you're using the Shimmerz or a water-based paint to color them. So now that we have that started, what I want to do is first work with this little piece. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my mat, my party table liner here, because if I really heat on top of that to melt this plastic, then it's going to melt this also, and we don't want that. So I'm going to move this out of the way and get down to my table surface. And I hope you can still see my little circle there. And what I am going to do is I am going to take a pair of my scissors, and you can use a pen, the end of a paintbrush, whatever you'd like to do, and I'm going to hold it down, and then I'm going to grab my heat gun. And we want this to curl in on itself because this is going to be the center of our flower. I'm going You'll see in just a second it'll start curling itself up. And you'll see my paint is kind of wrinkling up a little bit. I think that gives it a little bit more texture to our flower here. And then if you're very careful, it's going to be really warm. I use my fingers to finish shaping it the way that I want it to go. Okay, and so you have something that looks a little bit like that. I'll set that aside. And with this next piece, what I want you to do is take your scissors and we're going to cut it into petals. So I'm going to kind of just cut, and then I'm going to actually take out a little triangle here. So there's room for these petals to kind of curl up. Okay, so we have something that looks a bit like that. And then you're going to, once again, hold it down with whatever you're using to hold it down with. And obviously the last one I wasn't doing a real good job holding it down, but you do want to get all the edges, get them to curl up a little bit. Oh, there's one. There's two. Let's turn this around. Now it's still a bit warm here and pliable. I'm going to kind of bring it up, and you kind of just it's soft now, so you can bend it, kind of manipulate it into the shape that you want it to go. Okay, and then I'm going to set that aside for a minute. And then you're going to follow the same steps with the big circle. Just cut your petals, and then we'll do the heat gun. Okay, now we have our 3 pieces here of the blossom, and with this one right here, you can either warm it up a little bit, and if you want, you can cut off this end part. It's going to be kind of harder to cut off, or it's going to be sharper if you do it now after it's dried. You can see I cut that off. That way you can glue it, and then you can have 2 centers to the flowers right there. Or you can just leave it as is and just kind of angle it to the side within the top of your flower. So I ran out of zip dry this morning, so I'm going to have to use glue dots.